Welcome to Living Surrey, where this week we're at the fabulous Edenbridge Oxted show.
The Edenbridge Oxted, held in Lingfield, is one of the oldest agricultural shows in the whole country, with one of the biggest cattle entries to be found anywhere. The cattle classes give farmers the chance to showcase their animals, but there's a real art to it, as Bill Peters reveals on his Titsey Estate farm.
Basically, when you start selecting cattle for the show, you don't do it 2 or 3 days before. You've got to break them to walk on a halter, and that's the difficult and time-consuming part of the job. We've got here a bull that I chose and that I wanted to show, and we've been working on him for about 6 weeks. With beef cattle, which these Sussex cattle are, they have to be shown not only on a halter but on a lead in their nose. As you can see, the bull there has got a ring in his nose, and that's because he's now a registered pedigree bull in the herd book, so he will be shown using a strap in his ring. But for the heifers and steers that we're also taking to the show, you need to get them used to having one of these, which is a bulldog or a nose clip, and we just put that in again their nose, and we leave it dangling there for a few days again, so they just get used to it. So when the real hard work starts is when you actually start walking them. Well, we've learned now over the years that it's foolish to get pulled round and pulled over, because they know that they can get it. Once they know they can get away, you've got a real hard job. Here we are now to the show day, or the day before the show, that if we've got it right, everything's walking. And we had everything out last night, so my eldest son's here and my wife and the middle son's friend to help, just gotten used to walking and used to being handled. It's just a question of you've got to make friends with the animals. They've got to be friendly and comfortable with you, and hopefully then when you get to the show you won't have any embarrassments and hopefully some success. Tom here, my eldest son, he's the expert in cattle preparation. Daisy is a friend of our middle son, and she's helped us on the farm last year, and she helps with the showing, and my wife will come up in a minute and she helps as well. The particular characteristics of the breed is that they're docile, as you've seen. We've just relatively easy caught him. He's well fleshed. He's got a relatively small head, which is ideal for calving, because one of the attributes of the breed as a crossing bull for working on dairy heifers are they're easy calving. And you know, he's just a good example of the breed.
So what will the judges be looking for tomorrow?
What will the judges be looking for tomorrow? Basically, they'll be looking for a well-fleshed animal with a bull. The bull's well-fleshed, he's got a good covering of meat. They look for length, and particularly you want length from behind the shoulder here to the top of the hips, so along with the loin area and the width across the loin, which is most important, and good fleshing here in the hind quarters where the expensive cuts of meat come from. When the bull is shown tomorrow, the judge will want to see that he can walk nicely. Locomotion's all important for a bull, because obviously he's got to get round in the field and serve the females, and you know, not only has he got to have good legs but good feet, got to have good heel depth here so that they don't wear out in, you know, particularly difficult conditions. I wouldn't expect him to win his class, but I'd be very happy if he's in the top half of the class.
We'll catch up with Bill and Tom later in the programme to find out how they fare with their young bull in his first show outing. The opening day of the 2-day show was splendidly sunny, bringing the crowds flocking to the huge range of attractions. Around 45,000 visitors pass through the gates every year. The Edenbridge Oxted show covers 140 acres with, in addition to livestock, everything including horticulture, food, crafts, vintage cars and a constant and changing programme of main ring displays. And one of the most popular features is always the Parade of Hounds, whether mounted or, as here, on foot. Keeping the crowd informed and entertained is a real art in itself, but one that commentator John Ball makes his very own.
The country scene, you'll notice, of course, that being normally mounted, they're not capable of walking around the ring like the beaglers and the mink hounds. Taking place in 1970. And then, in due course, in 2006, things have been stolen, and the white rabbit's got the lead, but only just. The white rabbit's just got it. The brown hair is falling back badly.
So I'm here with John Ball, who's just been entertaining the main ring crowds while the foot packs have been on. John, tell me how you've been involved with the show.
Well, I got asked to do the commentaries on the foot packs about 7 or 8 years ago because I did a lot of announcing at point-to-point meetings in the southeast of England, and somebody asked me when the last commentator gave up whether I would take it on. And I was very happy to do so because it is the greatest possible fun with lots and lots of my friends.
That seems the best possible justification.
Absolutely.
And what's your involvement in country sports?
Well, I've been a country sports enthusiast almost as long as I can remember. I come from Shropshire, which of course is God's own county, and where there used to be hunting in the hills along the Welsh border, which was wonderful, and it was that got me interested, and I've, much to my wife's chagrin, have never given it up ever since.
What made the commentary so interesting and engaging was your knowledge. How do you accumulate all that knowledge?
I suppose it comes from years of hanging around with a lot of loose characters who go hunting and knowing all about their personal histories and trying to keep it back as far as I can. But just a general interest in field sports. And I read a lot about it, and if you go out, now I'm retired, you can go and follow the hounds so far as the law permits, several days a week. And I go to France quite often to follow the hounds as well, where hunting is still permitted. And so you meet a lot of people doing that as well, just as enthusiastic as they are in this country, and just as much fun.
And it was great to see all the children getting involved today.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely essential that we bring the children in every day at these sort of events because they are the future. It's a cliche, but like all cliches, it has a ring of truth to it. And if the children don't become interested, then the whole thing dies. And as far as I can see, there are more and more children interested every year. And so we hope the future looks good.
Shows and parades are one of the few opportunities nowadays that most of us get to glimpse the magnificence of heavy horses pulling the drays that would have been commonplace in 1837, the first year of the show. But competitors like Mary Fuller keep the tradition alive.
So you've got a magnificent pair of horses here. Can you tell me about the whole setup?
These are a pair of Percherons, which are they're English Percherons because they originated in France from the Le Perche, but now they are classed as an English heavy horse. It's a market cart. It was made in 1893, and it used to take. Cabbages from Bedford to London twice a week and bring leather up for the leather trade at Northampton, for the shoe trade. Yeah, and that's what it used to. The harness. We've had that built, made specially 23 years ago. We've been doing this 25 years. Yeah.
How did you first get involved?
My father. He bought his first horse. He's now cleaning the dray. He bought his first horse 25 years ago as a foal, and we've been doing it ever since.
Animals of all shapes and sizes are an integral part of any agricultural show. And some of the smallest at the Edenbridge Oxted were the ferrets, a much misunderstood and sometimes maligned creature, as James Mackay explains.
I'm with James Mackay of the National Ferret School. James, tell me, what is the National Ferret School?
We teach people, not ferrets, about ferrets and ferreting. So everything from how to look after a ferret, to breed one of the new colours, to using them to control the rabbit population.
What's one of the first things you tell people about them?
They don't bite. For people have this thing about ferrets, that all ferrets bite, and that's due to the late Richard Whiteley, I think. But I just say to people, look at my hands, there are no bite marks on my hands. I keep over 100 ferrets, and I just don't get bitten.
And you've got all your fingers, so?
Every one of them.
And who have you got here today?
We've got 25, mainly youngsters. There's about 6 adults in there, all females, and then all their youngsters are in there with them.
And have you bred them yourselves?
No, they do it themselves.
And what about type of ferrets? Are they all the same type?
No, these days lots of people have developed different types of ferrets, so different colours, if you like, different varieties. So we have ones that are albino, pure white with seemingly pink eyes, right the way through to ones that look very much like the wild ancestor of the polecat, and just about everything in between.
And are they suitable to have as pets?
They're brilliant pets. They are. A vet once described them as short-legged cats with attitude, and that I think really sums them up. They do what they want to. When they want cuddling, they'll be cuddled. When they don't, they'll just run away from you. They're very easy to train to a litter. A lot of people take them on little harnesses and walk them down the road. So everything about them says they're good. They're like a dog, but without all the problems that you get from the physical size of a dog.
And what about the smell? People say they smell.
Everything has a smell. The ferret's smell, its Latin name is Mustela pitorius furro. Translated into English, that means thieving, smelly weasel. So they do have quite a strong smell, but the smell that comes from ferrets, I'm quite sure that you wear at some time, because anyone who wears expensive perfume wears that smell. That smell is pure musk. And musk is put into perfumes because it's supposed to be an aphrodisiac, but also it sticks to your skin for a long time as well. The problem with ferrets is if you upset them, one of their cousins is the skunk, and they have the ability to let loose from the back end, and that really does smell.
And how do you get rid of that?
You don't.
Develop a taste for it, I guess.
Yes, or just soak in neat domestos for 6 months.
Have you got a favourite one you could show us?
I'm sure I can get one out for you.
Thank you.
This is Izzy. She's a female, she's 4 years old. And one of the things that people get amazed about with ferrets is they are the most flexible creature you'll ever come across. Because if you're fit, you might be able to touch your toes, you might be able to put your chin on your bottom like that. But these can also bend sideways, so they can bend in just about every direction. If I heard to doing that, she'd let me know. And as you can see, she's not one little bit bothered about it.
No, she's very laid back about it all.
Yes.
And what do they eat?
Ferret food. These days, in the same way that people make dog food for dogs, cat food for cats, they now make proprietary ferret food, which looks a bit like cat biscuits. It's designed specifically for ferrets. They have a very, very strange requirement. They need very high protein and fat and things like that because they are so active when they're active. But after having said that, they tend to spend about 20 hours a day sleeping.
I did see when we came in, they were mostly basking in the sun.
Yes, can you fault them?
Not at all. She's got such pretty markings on her face. Is that characteristic?
Yes, she looks very much like a wild ancestor of the polecat. A lot of people will call this a polecat. It's not. It's a polecat-coloured ferret, and the proper term for that is fitch. And a fitch is just exactly what she looks like.
And do you still get them in the wild in England?
Well, a ferret is a domesticated polecat, so we do still get a few polecats. Polecats were almost wiped out at the end of the 19th century, 20th century, because these were killing all the things that the big estate owners wanted to shoot. So their gamekeepers were told then to get rid of them. But now, of course, things have changed and people are actively encouraging these. And one of the good things about these is if you live on a farm where wild polecats are, then in the winter the wild polecats move into the farm buildings and 90% of their diet are wild rodents, which otherwise would come into your house and eat your food.
And when did you have your first ferret?
I got my first ferret when I was about 3, which is quite a few years ago now.
And you were hooked from then on?
Absolutely, yes.
How many ferrets do you personally have yourself?
Well, I'm hoping my wife's not watching this because it's just over 100.
What do? Sneak them away in the shed or something?
Well, they have their own building where all the ferrets are housed, well away from the house. We have a small farm. They tend to be, you get ones that mean something to you. So, for instance, this one is never going to go. She'll just stay with us until she retires. So we have a lot of doddering old senile ferrets up there. And, of course, some of the young Turks are on the way up showing things how things should be done.
She's certainly absolutely gorgeous. Thank you very much
for
introducing her.
Thank you.
The Country Sports Arena hosted an angling demonstration to encourage would-be fisherfolk to try their hand at fly fishing. More of an art than a sport, according to instructor Steve Fisher.
the gentle art of trout fishing. It is to teach youngsters like this young man here the spiritual side of fishing, which it is. I mean, trout fishing is a very spiritual thing. You're being by the water, you're in wonderful environments. But we are teaching them to cast a tiny, tiny fly onto the surface that either represents an insect or is an attractor to the trout, because the trout has only got a split second in which to make up its mind whether it takes that food morsel or not. And literally they've got to take enough energy from whatever it eats that is actually expended to get the food. So what we do is we teach youngsters here the basic overhead cast, which comprises of 5 component parts. You start right down at the surface. There is a lift to 11 o'clock, the backward tap, a pause and a forward tap. So it's lift, hit, pause, hit, down. And it can be done to waltz time, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And all trout and salmon casts can be done to that timing. There we go. So put wrist back up.
How are you finding it?
Really fun. Yeah.
Are you a dancer? Can you do the waltz?
No.
And do you think you'd like to be a future fly fisherman then?
Yes. Because I have some friends who do it, and I would like to join in with them.
And would it be quite nice to eat what you catch?
Yeah, definitely. Because I've only caught a piece of chamois leather before. And it was about that long.
Well, I think after today's lesson you can probably catch a little bit more than that. What do you think?
Yeah.
I'll let you get on with practising and learning.
The Surrey branch is part of the Salmon and Trout Association, and as such we run the marquee here at the Edenbridge and Oxted show and aim to introduce the general public to angling in general, but also to the aims of the Salmon and Trout Association, which is to provide clean water and a clean river and lake environment for everyone who uses these waters, not only anglers, but also canoeists, fishermen, walkers, and so on. And that's really the basic aim of the Salmon and Trout Association, which is now a registered charity.
And do you get good support here in Surrey?
Yes, our branch has got about 350 members, and we meet regularly during the winter months in a series of lectures, and we have outings in the summer to the various lakes and rivers in Surrey and the surrounding area in the south of England.
It's maybe not the first county people think of when thinking about trout and salmon environments and habitats. How true is that?
Oh, well, we have some quite well-known streams like the Wandle, which you mentioned recently, and other streams, but in this part of the world, mainly it's lake fishing. The Surrey branch has its own fishing lake, and if you're a member of the Surrey branch, then you can join that and fish the 4 lakes that we rent for that purpose.
And it looks quite complex, the whole art of fly fishing. Is it?
The art of fly fishing really is, first of all, a little bit of practice, and secondly, it's the timing and the way that you use the rod. It's not a strenuous exercise. The rod does all the work for you, but it is a matter of learning how to use it, and particularly learning the timing that makes it work well and also makes it look good.
And how long have you been a fisherman yourself?
I've been a fisherman since I was about 5, which is an awfully long time ago. But recently I've been here in the Surrey branch for the last 10 years or so.
A country show makes a great day out for dogs as well as humans, and a popular attraction for both watching and participating is the Agility Dog Ring, run for the last quarter of a century by Lynn Bergen of Sunny Day Agility.
Well, we take any dogs at all. We've got a lot of very small dogs and a lot of very big dogs and everything in between. We've got people who are just doing it once a week as a bit of a social event. They come along and have a play with their dogs, and we've got other people who go every weekend to competitions and compete as a sport, really. So we do the whole cross-section here.
And what makes a really good agility dog?
Well, a well-trained dog is a good agility dog, I'd say. So you have to have a good handler, you have to have a good relationship with your dog, and it has to want to do what you tell it to do, and it has to be very well trained in the first place. Also enthusiastic. They're not all enthusiastic.
A lot of people will be familiar with Border Collies being great agility dogs, but that's not always the case.
Border Collies mostly can be quite good agility dogs, but people get them thinking that they will be, and they're very, very hard to train because they're over enthusiastic. They want to do everything 10 times, whether it's good or bad. So they're not listeners really. But when they're trained, they're brilliant. But there are lots of other breeds as well.
And there's no sort of exclusion really as to size?
No, not really. I wouldn't recommend very, very big dogs, although I did see 2 Great Danes doing very well at a show last weekend. Long back dogs like a Dachshund, it's not good really for their backs. Apart from that, no, anything.
To get to that kind of level though, how much practice do you have to put in?
Lots and lots and lots. Lots, yes, lots. He probably trains 2 or 3 times a week on agility equipment, but it's like everything else, you do all the other build-up stuff away from agility, you know, teaching them turns and weights and doing generally tricks with them and getting bonded really.
And what about levels of human fitness?
Yes. Yes, the ones who seem to be doing well at the moment seem to be the young sporty types, and the old 60, 70-year-olds like us two getting left behind a little bit, but I do quite a lot of standing in the middle and pointing.
That seems to work, yeah?
Yeah, well, sometimes it does, yeah, not always.
Robin, who have you got here and what does she do?
This one's Teddy. Teddy, he's a Petzer's therapy dog now, but he has done agility. He's won, he's been in finals, and...
he doesn't fit the traditional mould, if you don't mind me saying.
Everybody says that, but any dog can do it, even little tiny Chihuahuas. He's a Chihuahua crossed Pomeranian, and he's a rescue dog. I've also 6 other dogs. I have a German Shepherd and a Shih Tzu, a Whippet, a Collie Cross, and another one very similar to this. And all of them have done agility, so there are no exclusions whatsoever.
And pat dogs, what do they do?
Well, Petzer's therapy is dogs which are assessed to be calm and good with people, as you can see with this one, and they visit homes, care homes, hospitals. We even do teaching and read to dogs, which is children with reading difficulties will have the dog sitting in front and they will actually read to the dog where they won't read to a human. So, you know, they're very good, and the calming effect of a pat dog is amazing, absolutely amazing. Teddy is, he's been visiting one of the care homes for 18 months now, and I am an assessor for Petzer's therapy as well for the dogs, and not all dogs pass. You can see with this one, he's exceptional.
He's very laid back.
He's very laid back. There's about 5,000 of them in Britain, and they cover everywhere. The beauty is that other people do take dogs into care homes, but they really haven't been assessed, so you have to be a little bit wary. And all care homes aren't dog friendly anyway, so but the one I go to is very good.
How regularly does he visit?
He visits once a week. I have been called back when new people have come in, which are particularly ill, and I've taken Teddy in, and he raises their spirit. But he's been doing agility as well for 7 years?
7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years, yeah.
And you've got great queues here today of people wanting to take their family pets around the agility course. What are you raising money for?
Well, we're raising money for 2 charities, which one is cancer and the other one is Petzer's therapy. So each one will benefit from them. And we walk around with the dogs. Everybody pats the dogs and puts the odd money in for us. So yeah, it's a good charity.
And do you come to this show every year?
Well,
Yes.
I've been coming for 26 years. I think it's time I stopped.
Millie's story is remarkable. An Australian Kelpie cross, she was a successful agility dog when she contracted pneumonia, which necessitated the removal of 20% of her lung area. and a 12-day stay in hospital when her survival was very much touch and go. But after a £6,500 vet bill, she is now back to full health. If you'd like more information on agility training or pets as therapy, use the websites below. Meanwhile, it was showtime for Bill, Tom and their bull. But it wasn't to be their day on this occasion, losing out to a bigger, slightly older animal in a stiff competition.
That was a bit disappointing.
Showed well, but what do you think he's sort of lost out to?
Just overall size, I think.
Yeah.
I think certainly the herds that at the top of the pile there are all, you know, they regularly show and feed their cattle specifically for showing, whereas theirs are sort of more of a commercial base.
But the Peters family didn't go home empty-handed, with the steers winning placings in their class, promising great things for the future.
It's the taking part. So it's our local show, we like to support it, and you know, we don't go out chasing the silverware, but it's quite nice when you do win something. Well, the ambition, I suppose, would be to win a breed championship at some point. Yeah, to have a successful herd, you know, to have people coming to us wanting breeding stock, which is quite nice. We've done quite well in the herd competition the last couple of years, so we're pleased about that. So it shows we're going forward as we're a relatively young herd. So, well, my one milestone is that I'd like to win a breed championship before I retire, and I've got 11 or 12 years before I do that. So yeah, that's my aim and target.
Despite teeming rain on the second day, the Edenbridge in Oxted returned yet another fabulously successful show celebrating country living. And we hope you'll join us next week on Living Surrey, when we'll be looking at what the tour of Britain means financially to the county and bringing you the very latest from our own farmers.